this is something I believe everyone in the program must hear. I think the reason it was given to me was for my benefit, but also because I can tell the story. During that same 21-day course, when Bhagwan talked about how he knew everyone that was in the audience and had brought them there, I was still in personal agony. I was questioning whether this was the right thing in my confusion of trying to be at peace finally. In those days, Bhagwan, in answer to a direct question, said to someone asked, "Can you make us all enlightened?" And he said, "Yes, I could, but it would kill every one of you." Because what I know now was the simple physiological transformation would be so extreme that the body just couldn't handle that degree of change that quickly.
No.
Now I understand that completely. He was doing it for our safety. But I pleaded with him. I said, "Okay, if you want me," and I was sitting in the audience. I was looking at him, but he never looked at me the entire time. And I was pleading with him, saying, "Look, if you want me to rededicate my life to you and change the spiritual path I've been on for almost 40 years at that point, then you have to show me that you're capable of doing this because I don't have another 40 years." He didn't look at me. There was no answer in my head. There was no recognition that he'd heard anything I said. I got up and I wasn't unhappy or anything and left the hall. And I stepped outside. And then everything changed. I remember standing under the roof of the veranda of the building on the campus in India. And I stood there and I had absolutely no idea what I was looking at. I had no thoughts. I didn't recognize trees or plants or people or anything they were saying. They were using English, I'm sure, a lot of them, and I didn't understand any of the words that they had. Nothing made any sense at all. It was just images and sounds that went through my awareness. And I sat there for the longest time, but I couldn't move because there were absolutely no thoughts whatsoever. It was just one giant experience. I didn't recognize myself being in a body at all, but about a half an hour later, everyone was gone. I was by myself, and I found myself leaned up against the wall of the building underneath this veranda roof. I still had no thoughts, but I began to recognize that what I was looking at was a tree, and I was under something. So, but there were still no thoughts about anything. It was just simply an experience. And then I remember having what I now know just to be the impulse to move. And so I ended up taking a couple of steps and it was fine, but it felt like my feet weren't touching the ground. It was like I was gliding. And I walked under the roof to the corner. And when I got there, I couldn't go any farther because there's a little kind of handrail fence there. And I didn't have the impulse to turn or do anything, but suddenly found myself turning right. And I got to what was the top of the stairway. A lady monk, a dasa, came up to me, and I have never seen her before or since. She said, "Do you want to share your experience?" And I didn't answer her because I didn't know what to say. There were still no thoughts. So I followed her across the street, and she pointed to a chair and said, "Please sit." And I did. And they taped my conversation. And to this day, I have no idea what I talked about. I have no idea. I stayed in that state, and it faded away slowly for about 3 days.
Wow.
At the end, I found myself laying flat out in front of the Srimurti, thanking Amma Bhagavan for giving me the experience of the enlightened state. He had answered my question in the only way that I could have understood it at the time, by making it clear to me why he wasn't doing it all of a sudden, because I would be completely not functional. That I wouldn't be able to have a business, have a relationship with Coralee, drive
Mm.
a car, make any decisions at all, because the process was so overwhelmingly huge that it would have taken quite some time for me to integrate all that and make myself able to perform in the world like I need to. That was it. Because not only did I know I was home, but I knew that the reality of what Bhagavan was talking about, he was capable of giving and could give in an instant, and was not doing it because he knew, as Westerners, we had responsibilities, that that process needed to be done slowly over time so that we could both enjoy the outer world and our family and our friends and our job and all that, and at the same time have our consciousness expand in ways we couldn't possibly understand. And he was giving it to us both at the same time in a way that was completely easy to live through. The reason I tell that story is because people need to understand that Amma and Bhagavan are here after 800 years, capable of doing exactly what they said they came here to do. And that this is not a, well, maybe. No, no. This is a certainty.
Mm.
And that whatever process the person's going through is superfluous. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they feel about it, what they think about it, what the experience is. None of that matters at all, because the end will be the same. It'll be complete freedom and unspeakable joy and a life that just continues to show itself in its majesty. That's the reason I wanted to end with that story, so that people, for at least this part of this conversation, understood that this is not just talk. Amma and Bhagwan are completely and totally capable of doing exactly what they need to do, and are capable of transforming the world, and they will do it.
I'm just so grateful that we have this conversation. We will stop now. I know you have a life still to live.
What a what a treat.
What a treat.
Yes.
Take care. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.